And hello again, and here we see my Norley, which I'm just about to start work on to replace all the wiring and all its electrical components with this kit here, which I've already mentioned in part 4 of this build series. So what we've got here is equipment from the German company Motor Gadget, and we have here the M unit, the basic version without the Bluetooth connectivity, and this little box of tricks basically does everything that you need on the bike, including things like a flasher unit, high beam, low beam, all kinds of stuff, an alarm of course, and so on. And with that I also have a full sort of wiring there for the bike, and also a very neat, if rather expensive, switch gear here, which again I've already shown you guys. Yeah, so that's it. But before we can continue, I need to sit down and read this book to tell me what on earth is going on. In fact, that one's in English and German, of course. So I've got to read all that, digest it, and then work out where this kit's going to go on the bike. But then before plunging in, I need to sit down and draw out a full wiring harness for the bike using this kit here, so I know what colours do what. I have to decide, for example, that perhaps green's going to be used for the neutral indicator, blue's going to be high beam and whatever, and I've got to stick to that when I actually do the work on the bike. And so the first thing to do is to work out where this thing is going to go on the bike. And my first thought was to place it here on this aluminium top motor mount to replace these two circuit breakers which are already mounted on this plate. So it'll be around about here. And that would be great, except for the fact that the instructions say you mustn't place this thing where it's going to get too hot, i.e. within 20 centimetres of the engine. And obviously that's far too close, it'll roast there, so that's no good. And so the only alternative place it can go is here on this stainless steel bracket, which is also used to hold the seat and also currently holds the main circuit breaker and a relay, which clearly will have to go. In fact, I don't need it anymore. And the only issue I've got is the height available, because the wires go in and out from the top, and obviously you need some space for that. But I think I can just about get away with it because the seat itself sits a few mil above these frame rails, which should give me just enough room to have the wires going in and out unimpeded. So that's good, that's the first thing sorted out. And then next, of course, I need to bolt these mini switches to the handlebar. Now you would think that's pretty straightforward, no great problem, but you'd be wrong, because the wiring here has to go through the bars rather than around them. So before I can fit it, these bars have to come off, or rather one bar has to come off, and I've got to drill a hole, a 6mm hole, in the bar in the right place so this wire can pass through. Then I've got to drill another hole at the end of the bar to let the wire continue on to the rest of the bike. And that's not so difficult, except for the fact that these obviously are clip-ons, which means the yokes have to come off, which means the speedo and tacker have to come off, which means probably the headlamp has to come off. Now it might have to come off anyway, but still, it's a lot of faffing about just to fit a switch, so that's something to be wary of. If you buy these mini switches, you do have to drill the handlebar. It's not an option, you have to do it. So at the moment then I've just got to take all this off and we'll get that done. You know, at times I'm surprised how stupid I can be. It's clear that this bar here is clamped here, so all I've got to do is undo this clamp and hopefully this clip-on will just slide out and I don't have to remove the yoke and everything else to get it out. So hopefully this will work, and it's not too tight. No, it's not. That's great. We can get this out of here. It also means it's a lot easier to get this thing off, because obviously I must have slid it on when I did that. So, and there we go. And so to remove the wiring for this idiot light pod, I've had to take off the headlamp lens and get out all the wiring that lives in the headlamp shell, some of which is actually from this. So I've just been chasing it back, and there it is there. There's actually, let me see, about 5 wires there. But since it's all going to have to come out anyway, I don't feel too bad about just cutting it all. So bear with me while I get my little wire cutters and cut them all one by one. In fact, no, I won't. I'll just cut the whole damn thing, just like that. Okay, so that's now off. There we go. And now I can take it in the workshop and work out a way of getting this stupid clamp off the bar. Well, as you can see, one little job ends up being a lot more time consuming and difficult than you might first imagine, but that's the price you pay when you're working on one-off bikes. Anyway, let's just keep on going. And here's that clip-on bar all drilled. I used some tape here and here to mark out where the holes have to go, and yeah, it's pretty straightforward. So now this can go back on the bike. And now finally, here's that clip-on being put back on the bike. It's been drilled, and as you can see, I managed to get the wire threaded through using a bent paper clip. A bit fiddly, but there you go. And now this needs to be spun round so that the switches are where they should be, and hopefully the output here is facing downwards out of view. So hopefully that's about level, and if not, we can always change it later on. And there it all is, back on the bike, and yeah, it's all looking pretty good. I would add though that this hydraulic clutch lever, although it works, it's a bit scabby. I bought it second hand, and I will be looking one day to replace it with something brand new and more appropriate for the bike, and also of course for the brake side too. But anyway, in the meantime, one good thing is that the wiring they give you with that switch is nice and long, and so it can go all the way through the bike to the M unit without having to worry about lengthening it or splicing in extra wires and so on. So that's pretty good. So now I'll just leave that for now, and we'll carry on with the next job. And hello again, and while Barney here has a well-earned rest from his busy day, we can now go and have a look at progress on the Norley. So at first glance then, it doesn't look like I've been doing very much, but actually I've been very busy with this bike. I've spent about, I don't know, 15-20 hours on the wiring, and as I say, although it doesn't look like I've done much, and there's still lots of loose wires here, I've actually almost finished. I think another hour should see the wiring completely finished. I have had a few issues though, which I'll go through next, which have delayed things a little bit, and the first one of which concerns the idiot lights. And what we have here is the little idiot light cluster, which goes on the handlebar, and it's all been wired up to match the rest of the bike, all ready to go. I put it on the bike, put it on the handlebars, just about to tighten it up, and guess what? It broke. The little clamp here snapped off. Now, a bit annoyed at that because this is quite expensive bit of kit. I think it's made by Multi-Gadget, like the M units and so on, and it seemed like it's quite well made, but maybe mine was damaged, I don't know, beforehand. But as I tightened it up, it just broke off, so can't really do much with that. I have contacted my supplier and said, look, can I bring it in and we can maybe get a replacement? He said, yeah, fine, bring it in. So when I get time, I'll take that into the bike shop and hopefully get a free replacement, but that does delay things a little bit. And now, looking at the front of the bike, you might notice I've got quite a few of these sleeved groups of wires going from the front of the bike to the back of the bike. And that's quite deliberate, rather than having one great big loom carrying all the wires front to back. And the reason I've done that is so that I can split up the functions of the wiring loom into different groups. And that's so that, if need be, I can adapt and change parts of the wiring as I see fit. Now, normally I wouldn't do that, but I tend to tinker with my bikes, and maybe in the future I want to change the headlamp, I want to change these brakes, I want to change the instruments and so on. If all the wiring was grouped together in one great big loom that's all wrapped or whatever, front to back, to change it would be a right pain. I've got to unwrap everything, start again. But this way, I can just take one of these, take it off, change it, and leave everything else as is. So that's kind of like the principle I've used. It also makes life a lot easier when it comes to actually building the loom, because I can build it in sections and do it inside, nice and warm and cosy, and then bring it out here, test fit, and then fit it to the bike. It's still a little bit loose. I mean, I need to fit some zip ties on here. I have got a clamp here that needs a spacer behind it, just to move this clamp off the headstock, because although these braided sleeves are very neat and tidy, over time they can fret and move and actually cut through your paintwork, which isn't ideal. So I just want to move that out a wee bit so it's not pressing hard against the headstock paint there, or rather powder coat, and that needs a spacer behind there. And as I say, I've not quite got that yet. So all these little things take time, and as I say, I've got about 15 hours in this so far. And now a few days later, we've got a replacement idiot lights. Or rather, we haven't, we've got a replacement bracket, because they sent me the bracket rather than the whole thing. Which, you know, wasn't a problem. There's the old one there, all broken, and I just fitted a new one. And that itself is a bit of a problem because it's held in place by these two tiny little bolts. Can you see there? And it turns out they're 5.5mm, and I didn't have a 5.5mm spanner to undo the damn things, so I had to go and order one. And thankfully with Amazon Prime it came the next day, which enabled me to unbolt the thing and bolt it back together again. Bit of a pain, but there you go. So that's done, and that can now go back on the bike. That's great, so let's get that out of the way. And while we're here, let's just zoom back a bit and I'll show you what's on this bit of paper here. Okay, so now I've zoomed out and you can see what we have here is the wiring diagram for the Norley that I drew up. I won't go into all the details because obviously it's going to be different for every bike out there, but I will point out just three things. And first of all, looking at the M unit diagram here, you'll see I've got quite a few options that I've not used. And that's because the bike's pretty damn simple, so I don't have things like a kill stand switch or a general kill switch. I don't have something called a LIN bus, and also I don't have indicators. So obviously those things I don't need. However, what you can't see in this diagram is the fact that the M unit includes an alarm system. So that's pretty handy. I need that for insurance purposes, and it's great that it's included in the M unit. And the second point is that this diagram is a little more complex than it needs to be. And that's because I've reused 3 circuit breakers here, here and here that were already on the bike from its first iteration of the wiring I did a few years ago. Now in theory I don't really need some of these circuit breakers because the M unit's already protected by its own circuit breakers on every single one of its circuits. However, the M unit doesn't cover every single circuit on the bike. For example, it doesn't handle the power coming from the generator to the battery, and I feel a bit happier to have a circuit breaker between the generator and the battery just in case things go wrong. And secondly, they can be really helpful when building up the wiring for the bike as sort of staging posts from one place to another because they're insulated. So for example here I've got a power point, one wire to a circuit breaker, and then I can take 3, 4, 5, 6 whatever circuits I want off the other post because it's fully insulated, and that makes life quite simple. Third point is, and this is quite annoying, I need to have a special circuit that's outside of the whole M unit itself to drive the speedo and the tacho, because for some reason I don't quite understand, they need power permanently on from the battery, and that won't work with the M unit because all the power's turned off when you turn off the ignition key. So that needs another protected circuit to go all the way from the battery to the speedo and tacho. I'm still not sure why they need it, other than maybe to drive, I don't know, the manometer and so on that's built into Speedo, but honestly it's a real pain to do. Anyway, that's my overall and quite simple wire diagram for the bike, and now let's go and look at the real thing. And now here we are back at the bike, and you can see 2 of the 3 circuit breakers here bolted to the headstock that I had when I first wired up the bike. Oh, and by the way, a circuit breaker is just like a fuse that can reset itself, so yeah, I've got 2 there and a main one at the back of the bike where the power comes from the battery. And now that's pretty much the bike fully wired up. What I've not done yet though is actually tried it out. I've not been brave enough to, so I've just got to connect these 2 earth wires together. One is earthing the frame and one is earthing the M unit itself. I don't actually need it again because the 2 are connected together through the frame, but anyway, belt and braces, I've got these 2 slightly thinner gauge wires than I might otherwise have had to use. So I've just got to connect that with the battery and we'll see what happens. And honestly, I haven't actually tried this before, so if you see a big spark, big flash and a fire, you'll know I've got something wrong. But here we go anyway. Let's just see what happens. Light's not too, actually it's going to be late, but we'll do our best. So here goes. Okay, well there's lots of lights flashing on the M unit. I was told, I've read that you need to give it a few seconds or a minute or 2 to sort of work itself out and work out what's going on in its little electronic brain. So that's what we'll do. Just got to tighten up that fasten out. Where's my 10mm spanner gone? Okay, so that's done, and so far I'm not sure it's a good sign or not, but there's no lights flashing anymore, there's no smoke, there's no sparks. So the next step is to turn on the ignition, which will be fun, and that should activate pretty much everything. So here goes. And so, fingers crossed, let's see what happens. I honestly haven't turned this on yet, so here goes. Hopefully there's no bangs and fire and sparks. Right, okay, I can hear things happening. Okay, let's just have a quick look around the bike. The It's got some lights on it. I think those two on the left hand side are just saying there's no circuit there. That's fine. Oh, I'm not sure. I have to check to see what's going on with those lights. Looking elsewhere, idiot lights are working okay. Those two should be on. One's for oil pressure and one's for generators. Obviously they're going to be on for the time being. Slight worry in that the tacho's not on. No lights there. Don't know why. It was working fine. It was a speedo that had to be replaced. Bit of a worry there. They both share the same 12 volt ignition power and 12 volt permanent power, so I'm not sure why it won't work. Got to check the circuits for that. What else? Let's try the lights. The front light's not plugged in yet, but at least I can check the back one, so bear with me for a second. Okay, so let's try the switches now. The top one I think is the horn. That won't do anything because there's no horn fitted yet. But let's look at the M unit as I do that. Yeah, there's little lights flashing saying it's not happy. I've got power in but nothing to drive it. That's fine. That's no problem. I can fit the horn when I work out where it's going to go. Next one is going to be, I think, the lights. No front headlamp fitted yet, but let's try this. And yeah, the rear lamp's on. That's great. Keep it pressed in and it should go out. Let's just see. Yeah, it's fine. I've got to plug in the headlamp now and see if that works too, but I'm pretty confident. But as you can see, there's a bit of a rat's nest of wires at the front which all hide away in the headlamp. So what can we say? Oh yeah, last of all, of course, and most importantly, is the starter. So that'll be the last button along here. Let's just see what happens. Now the bike won't start because there's no fuel in it and it's not turned over for a hell of a long time. But I just want to see if the circuit actually works and the engine will turn over. Here goes. Oh yeah, oh god, I think that might be in gear. Oh, that was a bit of a worry. Thank god it didn't start. Anyway, make sure that's not in gear next time. But that kind of works, that's good. So the real problem I've got then at the moment is the tacho. Bit annoying. Got to go through all that and work out why not. As I say, at the front here, there's quite a lot of wires. They all hide away in the front. Not sure what's going on with that. Perhaps even the tacho's failed, I don't know. I mean, the bloody speedo failed last time, but I did check it with a battery on the dining room table and it all lit up fine before it went on the bike. So I suspect I might have a poor joint somewhere, a poor circuit connection, so that's something I've got to check. But yeah, not too bad considering I've not tried this before. What else can I say? Well, the bike's actually now going to move from here. I've got to move all that junk, get it out of here, get it in the workshop where I can look at the other side of the bike and work on a few things. Phew, that was hard work. But all change. The Norley's now back in my garage at last, after being in the back of the house for like a year or so. So now I can work on things on this side of the bike, give it a good clean and maybe look at why that tacho doesn't work. And then it's just a question of waiting for the paintwork to come back. It was promised to me last week, not here yet, not heard anything, so I'll give Richie a call next week and see what's going on. But right now I don't have a huge amount of time to work on it anyway, so it's no great problem. Just hope I get it finished by perhaps in February when the weather improves, because right now it's about -2 outside as the sun sets. And now I'm out of breath because I've just pushed this Guzzi with its sticky discs all the way from the garage to the spot where the Norley sat for nearly a year or so. And guess what? Yeah, it also needs its wiring finishing. So that's what I'll be doing in the near future. Anyway, so I did want to have the Norley running by now, but it's not going to happen. And this video is getting far too long. So we'll end it there. And hopefully in the next video we will get the Norley running at last. So thanks for watching and cheers.